Right, we're looking forward to this. I think it's going to get fiery, so let's get straight into it, shall we? This is the controversial Elgin Marbles or Parthenon statues debate. We have to be very careful now with this.
This week, Rishi Sunak was accused of throwing a hissy fit over the Elgin Marbles. He was due to meet the Greek PM Kyriakos Mitsotakis at COP28.
Yeah, very, very good. Well, the historian and broadcaster Rafe Heydel-Mankoo is here with us, and the broadcaster Tonya Buxton. They're both on the studio. And Rafe, you passionately believe, don't you, that the marbles belong in the British Museum?
I do. I'm terribly sorry. But I should say I'm also part Greek. My great-grandfather, Zygmunt Maneiko, discovered the Temple of Zeus at Dodona. And my cousin, the Greek Prime Minister, George Papandreou, is one of the leading voices calling for their restitution. So I understand, and I'm very sympathetic to the Greek cause. But it would set a terribly dangerous precedent if we were going to return the Elgin Marbles. You know, the British Museum and the Louvre and the Met in New York are a unique group of institutions. They're what we call world encyclopedic museums. They're repositories for some of the world's finest treasures. In order for us to place things like the Elgin Marbles or the Benin bronzes in their wider global context, and that speaks to our shared humanity, and it enables us to chart and compare the ascent of man, essentially. And that's why. And I think it's also quite retrograde to think that we have to return objects to where they came from. It's as if you can only go to Greece or to Cairo to look at Egyptian or Greek artefacts. Most of the world will never go to Cairo or to Athens, whereas London, Paris and New York enables a far larger portion of the world to actually view these great items.
Rafe,
okay.
you are messing with honestly, Tonya is just about to let go. I can just feel it.
Bring it on, bring it on.
You're setting a precedent for justice and for morality. Because let me set the example of why the Parthenon marbles are where they are. They were stolen. Greece was under Ottoman occupation at the time. And then the British...
There was no Greece.
No. I did not interrupt you, you charming man that you are. I just wanted to let it out there. Greece was under Ottoman occupation. In an occupied country. Let me give you a little example of where it sits in. So imagine that when France, Paris, was under Nazi occupation, the Nazis, before the Americans came into the war, decided to sell the top of the Eiffel Tower, not all the Eiffel Tower, just the top of the Eiffel Tower, to the Americans. And the Americans took it and they put it next to the Statue of Liberty. Would that be acceptable? Would you agree with that?
Well, modern Greece is a 19th century creation.
No. Oh, right? This whole thing about you changing...
That's the first thing we need to do.
I read and write Greek, and I read it, and I can, because I've learnt modern Greek, I can read ancient Greek. Some of the languages change, but don't try to make the ancient Greeks and the modern Greeks two different things, because that is completely wrong. So my point is, to continue my argument on this one, is they were stolen. They were stolen, and the British government acted like handlers in stolen goods. So this morality story, this story is so wrong on so many levels. And the main thing is that they are part of a sequence. They are a frieze. There is 192 soldiers of Marathon depicted on the friezes, on the marbles. So you're separating. It's like cutting your family portrait in half and putting half here and half there. There is no morality to this, apart from what the British Museum says. No, their imperialistic attitude is, we've got it so everybody can come and see it.
It's not an imperialistic attitude.
It's very much...
As I was saying before I was interrupted,
arrogant.
modern Greece didn't exist in the 19th century. They were purchased from mandate from the Sultan. And you have to remember, half of the marbles were already destroyed when the British arrived. If Lord Elgin hadn't saved them for the world, they probably wouldn't exist today. No, actually, I didn't interrupt you, did I? Thank you so much. So it was thanks to Britain bringing them over back to the UK that they were saved, actually. And it was Britain that made the Elgin marbles into the globally recognised artefacts that they are. That's absolutely true.
That's just rubbish. They were beautiful marbles.
Can I please at least have more than 30 seconds to develop a point? That would be lovely.
Go ahead,
Thank you so much. That's very kind. And it was the fact that they were brought to the British Museum that enabled the educated world from Germany, from France, from Italy and Britain to actually celebrate these and rediscover Greek civilization and celebrate it for the world.
Bear in mind no, this is I can't
honestly,
accept it because it's
you have to accept it because there's facts.
It's a rubbish point. Oh, No, the world would
Greek
not...
civilization was rediscovered by the British and the French, for heaven's sake. I mean, Greeks weren't the ones rediscovering Greek civilization.
British culture is because of the democratic system in Athens that happened during the Periclean time.
But the ancient Greeks and the modern Greeks are worlds apart. Modern Greeks
they are not
weren't rediscovering.
How rude, how disgusting to say that.
Excuse me, my great-grandfather was discovering Greek temples in Zeus, so I do understand a bit of this. Thank you very much.
We are talking about... I am a classical history scholar as well, so I understand much of it.
Well, then you know the role that Britain played in rediscovering Greek civilization.
Thomas Bruce was allowed to go to the marbles and to take sketches and maybe take some of the marbles that had been crushed down because the Venetians threw a bomb in and some of the marbles had broken. But he didn't. He allowed his henchman, Lucieri, to actually hack off marbles from the phrases. It's written down that even Lucieri stated, oh, we had to be quite barbarous. They stole them. They hacked them off.
They saved them.
And the British Museum did not look after them.
The British saved them.
In the 1930s, they were washing the marbles with bleach and wire brushes.
They wouldn't exist today were it not for the fact that they are safely secured within the British Museum, all right? And there's a dangerous precedent that's being set here. In this era, when we've had our institutions captured by the woke ideology of decolonisation, you can just see how we would have our museums stripped if we let museum curators actually
Greece has promised to
all
give
of these
beautiful artefacts for you to display in the British Museum.
Oh, well, that's like us giving an old...
The argument is, one of the great arguments is that imagine your house is on fire, Ellie, and you lend your neighbour your paintings. You say, please, can you look after my paintings because my house is on fire. The Ottomans were ruining the Parthenon Marbles. And then 3 years later, you get your house fixed, and you say, please, can I have my paintings back? And they say, no, you can't have them. That's what Britain did.
The whole argument
is...
Here's the thing. So I obviously did a bit of research because I wanted to know what's going on here. So obviously he claimed, Lord Elgin claimed, that he had bought these. OK, he had claimed...
From whom did he buy them, Peter?
No, I'm going to get to that. He had claimed all of this. I'm on your side at the moment. He claimed that he had bought them and he had claimed that he'd been given permission, etc., etc. Now, the problem is, of course, that there's no evidence of that.
Oh, well...
Sorry?
I will say, actually, what is fantastic about this whole acquisition was that when Lord Elgin brought the marbles to Britain, he sold them to the British government to be placed in the British Museum. And the British House of Commons uniquely held a parliamentary inquiry to ascertain the legality of this sale. Now, it's impossible to imagine any other government going to such great steps to ensure that this was done correctly and followed the correct procedures.
To blur the lines of legality.
It's a testament, actually, to the integrity of the British that they actually went down that path to make sure that it was a proper purchase.
You're buying stolen goods, and they took it to the House of Commons. They're buying stolen goods. The British government bought stolen goods, bought, but the money went to the thief. That's what happened.
To the saviour.
It did not
Your
go
thief
to Greece.
is another man's saviour.
It did not go to
fighters,
Greece. It went to the Ottomans, and therefore they debated it in the House of Commons in order to try and make it a legal thing when they knew they were doing wrong. It was wrong.
But there's another point here that Tonya was saying, that there's now George Osborne's trying to arrange this sort of long-term loan scheme, you know? But we have no idea if we'll ever get the marbles back once we've given them to Greece.
Wow.
Possession is 9/10 of the law. And also we have no idea what we're going to be receiving in exchange. If I give someone my 1926 Phantom Rolls-Royce and I get back a 1982 Ford Cortina, I'm not going to be very happy if at the end of the day they refuse to give me back my Rolls-Royce.
Those marbles belong in their home. They belong the marble was taken from, was made actually from the Pentelake mountain, which is 5 miles away. So it's in the site. They need to sit in their home. They need to be seen as a full story. They belong to Greece, and Greece actually, in my opinion, can give whatever it likes back to the British Museum. But let me tell you, the Greeks and Kyriakos Mitsotakis are beautiful gentlemen, and they will do things nicely, unlike our Prime Minister, who threw his little rattle out of the pram and wouldn't even meet him to discuss this.
I think that was shameful. I think if Rishi Sunak wants to create a culture over the Elgin Marbles in order to win the election, I think he's lost his marbles, quite frankly.
Well, we're agreed on that one. There we go, we're agreed on that one.
And there are points, you know, the main point for me is I love what you said about the Eiffel Tower. Same with Stonehenge, if you took some of those stones.
Exactly.
You know, we'd want them back.
Well, I don't know whether we would want them back.
The Parthenon
I've thought about that.
There. The Parthenon is still there. And, of course, you talk about the museums here and how it's great for the people here and people who don't get to go to Greece. But they've also got museums there. And, you know,
the Acropolis Museum is beautiful,
Yeah.
Peter. They've rebuilt it and they've left the gaps.
And it's
But
part of
this is
an
part-
existing building.
These items are part of world heritage, all right? They've gone beyond the Athenian state, and these are part of Western civilization
Again, this is an
and world
imperialistic
heritage.
argument.
And what I find interesting is most of the people calling for this are on the left. I know you're not. But it's a purely nationalistic argument for the left, who are usually internationalist. And this British Museum should be called the International Museum, like the Louvre and the Met Museum. These are international celebrations of world heritage and world culture.
I agree
and
with
it's
you.
rather retrograde to actually reduce things down to nationalism. And if I wanted to promote my culture, I would be delighted that my
And the
artefacts
Greeks
are on
are
display
absolutely
in the
delighted
greatest cities in the
to
world.
give to the British Museum lots of beautiful artefacts. Half of the beauty of the world came from Greece. You know, we know that so many structures, so many temples, there is so many artefacts that the Greeks are very, very happy to give to the British Museum.
Absolutely.
And what they should do is, and this wonderful argument that the amazing Stephen Fry gave was, wouldn't it be lovely if the British returned the Parthenon marbles, and then they could make moulds and have them up there, and actually have a film of how they cast these marbles. And here they are now. We looked after them for 200 years, and then returned them to their rightful owners.
The moulds could go to Greece because, of course,
no, because their rightful home is in Greece.
There's a reason that Parliament passed in 1963 the British Museum Act, which forbids the museum
to hold on to
returning
everything.
things down because these are world encyclopedic museums.
Why do you think that the president of Italy in 2008 returned back the marbles? Because
they've got enough of their own already.
Thomas Bruce, Lord Elgin, left some of the marbles in Italy, and in 2008 the Italian president knew that the right thing to do was to return these marbles to the Acropolis where they belong. So he did the right thing. The British government are acting in a lootist, imperialistic, arrogant way, and this is something that we don't want as part of our character as British people. Let's be seen to be grateful.
Well, don't speak for everybody when you say we, because you're speaking for me as well. Look, I'm very sympathetic to the Greek cause, I've told you that, but as I've said, the precedent that will be set would open the floodgates for all sorts of spurious...
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you for round two there. Ding dong.
Can we all just get along?
Yeah.
But we do.
We get along.
We
It's our one only disagreement that we have.
It's true.
You did it just as we like it, which is fiery, which we like, but also very polite. Thank you so much for that debate there.
Love it.
You'll have an opinion on that at home, won't you? gbviews@gbnews.com.